Hi everyone. So I totally got cut off for the last video, which of course would happen when I go live, right? But that's fine. And but that's what I was saying is that it's really important to read key terms and to read what it's asking you. Um, and then once you read the question first, you have an idea of what you're looking for, right? It's like reading the questions at the end of the chapter before you start the chapter, or reading the questions before you go back into the literacy and to find the answers. You got to be smart about it. So you know what you're finding. And then you go and you read the scenario and you pull out the information that you need. Don't let the other information trip you up. Some of it you might not even need. I mean, sometimes they give me all these lab values, and I'm like, that's great, nice to know. But priority is not that stuff. The priority was something completely different. And then I would look into my questions, my possible answers, and find the answer that makes sense and that is priority according to the question. So I read the question, then I go and read the scenario, then I read the question again because I always miss a key term. So I go back and make sure I'm reading the right thing. And then I go to the answers and then try to answer them, right? And then another thing was the SATAs, the select all that apply. People struggle with those, and sometimes I struggle with them too. I tend to miss one out of maybe the 5 that were given. And I think that's because you really truly have to look at it like true false. That was the best advice that I was ever given as far as select all that applies. And I wish I would have known that because it makes sense to me in my brain, um, which not a lot of things tend to do, but this one did. I read my scenario the same way, right? I read my question, then I read my scenario, then I read the question again. And then when I look at my select all that apply, you have between A, B, C, and D. I look at A only. These are not, A, B, C, and D are not in concurrent with each other. It's not that if that happens, the other doesn't happen. Like, look at them as separate, right? Those are different options that you could be doing. So I look at A and then I think to myself, is answer A true or false according to my question and my scenario? If it's true, I click it. If it's false, I don't, and I just leave it out. I go to B and I do the same thing. Is B the same as my question and my scenario? Not, is B the same as A? No. Is B true or false according to my question and my scenario? If it is, then I click it. If it's not, then I don't. So that's the best way to not get kind of overwhelmed with those, because those are pretty hard questions. And it's the one that I always tend to miss is one that I know that I missed it because I kind of was going back and forth on it and I wasn't sure if it made sense. And I feel that every time I've gone back to look at how I answered it and why, and I discuss it with my instructor, I see it. And then I think to myself, if I would have just thought of it like black and white, is this true or is this false? Then I would have answered it correctly and gotten the point. So, and it's really hard for me to do that. So it's really important for us to remember that when we're going through it, because that kind of trips, us up. But yeah, so that's kind of just my opinion on the NCLEX style questions. They're critical thinking. They are higher level thinking. That is the biggest learning curve that we are probably going to go through in nursing school, because we all have the background knowledge of anatomy and physiology. Some of us remember it better than the others. Some of us kind of have to go back and do a refresh, but we all have that capability and we're all learning the same skills. So it's just about having that, I don't know, that like accepting that learning curve and thinking critically about the patient and about what it's asking you. So that's the best advice I could give. I mean, I obviously haven't taken the NCLEX. I can't sit here and be like, oh, it's like this because I passed it. I don't know. I passed the NCLEX style questions that my instructor gives us, and I pass NCLEX style questions on Prep U in the book that I have and stuff like that, I tend to get, like the 80s and the 90s and those. So, I'm kind of getting the hang of it. It is a learning curve. And if you have an exam coming up, I recommend that you do some of those NCLEX style questions to get used to it, to get used to that critical thinking and how you assess the question itself, so that when you get to your actual exam, you're ready and you're prepared. Because you can study the material, but if you don't know how it's going to be asked to you or what are the possible ways it can be asked to you, then you're not prepared to critically think about that material and how it would apply to a patient in real life. But and I have a friend that just passed the NCLEX and she just got a job as a nurse. So I think maybe I can probably ask her if she wants to come on my channel and she can give you guys some advice on what she did and how she did and what she thought of nursing school and NCLEX style questions. She went to nursing school in Arizona as well. So, and like kind of her resources, she used a lot of online stuff. I kind of drown in resources. So I kind of don't look at all of them. So she definitely was a resource person. Um, so maybe she'll have some more advice for you guys. But yeah, so if you are graduating or just starting nursing school or getting into the program or whatever, you guys, you're going to make it. Work hard. Trust me, just study, practice, and don't give up. And you guys are going to do great.